Okay, so now some of the SQL commands, and for what we're going to do next week, we're going to worry about 4 SQL commands. And SQL is a very different language from Java. It's a wordy language, actually, very English-like type language. And there are basic 4 SQL key commands or query commands that we need to worry about. One is the select command, which allows you to retrieve this. The other is the insert command, which will allow you to insert new data into the database. The update command will modify existing data, and the delete command will delete it. And these are some variations on what you can do. One of these applies to select command, but actually the was applies to also to update and delete. So probably the quickest way to do a query is to do something like select star asterisk card from a table and just see all the data. And actually that's what I did here when I did select star from table, right? And we got everything. So that's a very simple way. So it just displays everything from the title because it's everything we've got now. If you assume that the columns are always returned in the order from a query, they use an asterisk. The program may process the results. So what this is saying is that while asterisk is the way to do it, the problem is you kind of assume that the table structure doesn't change and you're always the column in the same order, and that's not necessarily correct. Also, if you don't need all the data, you're bringing back more data than you need. So what we would generally say the best thing to do is to actually only include the data that you need. So maybe we only care about author ID and the last name. If I were to do a select star from authors, I get all that. But maybe I only want the author ID and the last name. So now I can say select author ID, comma, last name from authors. And now all I get columns. This is a better way for 2 reasons. One is that you're only bringing the data you actually need, which is always a best practice. And the other is there's no ambiguity or doubt to what order in which the columns will come out. You're specifying it. When you use last star, you may get some unexpected results. You may not get the columns in the order you expected. So it's always best to do something like this. List out the actual columns. You know, you can have if you've got a different database. SQL language, which stands for Structured Query Language, in what they call ANSI standard, international organization that sets standards, and I believe the latest one is 99, which is 1999. It stands for Structured Query Language, and they set a standard as to what the language should do. Pretty much all the database vendors, from MySQL to Oracle and Microsoft and so forth, follow that standard. But there's always little variations in what they do. So if you're working with a new database, you may have to check and find what that standard is. And almost all of them add stuff to standard. So they might follow the minimum standard, but then they may add their own customizations to it. That's fairly common. Difference between Microsoft SQL and MySQL, Oracle SQL is, probably the difference between American English and British English, and essentially the same languages, but there are some little differences. And I'm just showing you some more tables and how they work. Okay, so here I think they're getting into where clauses. So here again, if we look at all of our titles, which is this one up here, we get that. The next slide, so this would be all the authors, which we looked at. And now we see all the authors, but we only see one line. And this says the only author from the tables whose last name contains O. So I'll show you how we do that. That's with something called a where clause, which allows us to put a criteria or a filter on it. And I want it where the last name contains O. So we're doing a wildcard search, like pattern matching in Java. And the command for that is equal to the like command. And the %sign is a wildcard. So what this will give me, well, we've got more. I think I added a few rows myself into authors, actually. But it would give us every author with the letter O in it. So percent sign means to match any number of characters before O, then a letter O, and then the second percent sign means any number of characters after that O. So essentially what it means is any name containing an O. You can see we get that. Order by last name. So can we get it in alphabetical order? Yep, we sure can. The order by command does that. Order by, and we'll say last name. And now you can see we get it in a slightly different order. We get it in alphabetical order. So the order by command allows you to get it in a specific order. Descending order by last name. By default, SQL sorts data in ascending order. Alphabetical ascending starting with A to Z. You can flip that order around if you want by adding the word DESC for descending order, starting with the highest and then going to the lowest. In ascending order by last name and first name. Well, that's easy. We just go back here and then we add the first name. We'll sort first, last name, and then by first name. So if we hit Ditel, and we want to get the same names in there, we'll see that we get Harvey or Paul. Okay, so now it's saying, give us all the books where the title ends with how to program. So we can go ahead and copy that. And this would be from the titles table now. And I'm going to say where it ends with how to program. And this will be title is like and that's what we get. So they would have to end with that. And if we take the where clause off, you'll see that they don't all end with that. Okay, my bad. They do all they do all end with that. So that's not a good one. Let's say anything that starts with visual. I'll give you that example. Let's say so visual. Okay, so now we only get the ones that start with visual. In SQL statement, include columns with the same name from multiple tables. So this is basically has to do with a join condition. And that's something we'll look at in a moment. So how does this work? If we wanted to join them, let's say the book, the titles to the author. So if we look at this and we see internet programming, or any one of them, Visual C#, who's the author for Visual C#? We've got the ISBN. We know who our authors are, but we don't know who the authors are for Visual C#. The way we would find them out is to do something called a join. So if you see here, we have author IDs and ISBN. So if I want to know who the author of Visual Basic How to Program is, there's the ISBN. I could scan through here and I could see, okay, well, author ID 1, author ID 2 are there as authors. And if we would go back and look at all of our authors, 1 and 2 would be the Ditel brothers. But how can I do that without having to manually look at each table? You can do something called a join. So if I want to see author ID, and then maybe the title, and then probably the last name and the first name, from now we have to get the data from 3 different tables. So it gets a little complicated. we have to do something called a join. From, pick the table, we'll say title, join, author, ISBN on title.isbn is equal to author ISBN .isbn. Join authors on author ISBN dot author ID is equal to authors dot author ID. We got an error. It says test.title. Okay, so that was not the error I was expecting. I was expecting an error, but not that one. It needs to be titles, not title. Let's see. Okay, in this case it says column author ID and field list is ambiguous. And we can just grab this actually like this and just throw it into Notepad. Oh, okay. Let's see. Temporarily. So it said the column is ambiguous. Author ID. Well, that's because author ID exists in two tables. And it says, I don't know which table you want to take it from. Now we know it doesn't matter because they're going to have the same value, but MySQL is a little, I don't know, not smart enough to get that. So we now have to prefix the column with the table name so that we know exactly which table they're talking about. It's a little like adding an area code to a phone number you're dialing. If it's out of your area code, you have to add the area code. And column title.isbn. Okay. Oh, that should be titles.isbn. Okay, and so now here we get data from multiple tables. So that's a join. That's probably about as complicated as it will get. All right, so if you fail to qualify the column names, you're going to get an error. This shows, I think, a sampling of authors and ISBNs for books they have written. This list is longer than ours because we just don't have as much data. And it says we'll do it in ascending order. That's the only thing we didn't do, but we could very easily do that. We just say order by last name and first name, and now we get it in order. And the way I will save all this and upload it so people can see it. Oh, the other thing I want to mention is that I uploaded. We'll have to look at it later. The NetBeans project we've been using all along. Let's see if it's on my way. I know I uploaded it. I'm not sure if I added the link. NetBeans example. It's a little hard to see. You can download. Here, download the NetBeans examples, and that's all the classes and all the examples that I've been doing in NetBeans since the beginning of the class. You can download that, unzip it, and you should be able to just open it in NetBeans. Always explicitly list the columns when inserting rows, the table's order. So, if you So let's say you want to insert a row. And let's say I want to insert a row into authors. And so I'm just going to insert myself. List the column name. And you'll notice under author ID it says auto increment. That means that MySQL will automatically generate that ID. And that's what you want to do. You want to have it identify that, generate it. Because that way it ensures that it's unique. So you always want to do that. Myself from there. I said insert into authors. And now if I do a select star from authors, we'll see that I'm now in there, and I'm author ID 6. So, a very simple insert command. Now you can enter data without specifying the columns, like I did here. Last name and first name, that's legal, but it's generally considered a bad idea. And if we were to look at, we could do it. If I said, this is ISBN title, edition, copyright, and I said insert into titles, and I could just say values as long as I give the values. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 0. The title, healthcare, IT, edition, first edition, copyright 2012. It works. The problem is that when you do it this way, you have to know the exact order of the fields. And if someone changes that order, like the DBA or someone adds a column or moves a column around, and you do this without the columns, then the data is going to be in the wrong column. And you can only do it if you put data for every single column, too. I can't put just data for some columns. It's not going to know where to put them. So if I were to do this, let's say, oh, the ISBN will be automatically generated, so I'm going to leave it off. And I do that. Well, we get an error. It says column count match value at row 1. It doesn't exist. So what I would have to do is I would have to give the values and say title, edition, number, copy, right. Well, it's going to work that time, but the problem now I'm going to have is I'm missing the ISBN. So basically the rule is that you should include the columns every time. Unlike Java uses a double quote to denote strings. SQL has the same concept, but it uses a single quote instead of double quote. This becomes useful when you start embedding SQL commands in Java and other languages. Now, the problem you have with a single quote is since it indicates the end of a string, is people's names with a quote in it are going to cause a problem because it's the end of the string. In Java, we use that / escape character to get around that. But in SQL, they don't quite have that. So what they do is they do double single quotes to get around it. So again, if I were to insert into authors, last name, name, values, O'Malley, Patrick, I don't know. Now it's kind of like, what's going on here? You really get lost pretty quickly. So the way you get around that is that you have to put 2 in a row, and that nullifies or takes away the special meaning of the original one. And now it works. And we showed you after we did an insert, I already did that we have the extra data. Update command, so you can do updates as well. Okay, so remember up here, I forgot to put the ISBN in here, so it's not there. Well, I can fix that. I can say update titles set ISBN equal to some bunch of numbers where, and I have to pick something to update on, so I have to look for something unique. Unfortunately, we've got a little bit of a problem because healthcare IT is in there twice. So, well, one thing I could do is just say where the ISBN is equal to empty, nothing in it. And then when we do the select from titles, we'll see that I now have an ISBN in both of those. So that's the update command, which changes the data. All right, that's about it for that part. Is there any questions so far?